Well, what's going on, my friends? You've got the fifth quarter with Chad Doing and Chris Burkhardt. Opening night in the NBA for your Portland Trailblazers and for a young team, a new team that has not had any time on the floor together. That's a tough place to open up in LA against the Clippers, a team with star power, a veteran presence, and a group of guys who have played together for an extended period of time. So I think you saw it tonight where you had a team that had some cohesion. They were executing well. I think 7 of their first 8 shots were all dunks right at the rim. And the Clippers dominate action tonight, 123 to 111. And there were a number of different things that jumped out that we'll get into tonight, for your Portland Trailblazers. As I told you, and I've been saying now for the last couple of months, you got to strap in and get ready for what this season is all about. It's not about wins and losses. It's about acquiring assets, talent, and clearly player development. So the one key thing I'm going to be watching from now up until the end of the season is how much improvement do we see with this team functioning together, and what type of incremental growth do we see with the young players? Guys like Scoot Henderson, especially Scoot Henderson, that's going to be the key. Chris Murray, the role that they're going to continue to define for DeAndre Ayton. These are all the things I'm going to pay attention to. The one thing we've got to find out is that, if the coaching staff that they have in place right now is the one that can lead this young team into the future. And, the reality is we don't know. The word on Chauncey Billups around the league over the last couple of years has been disorganized. Now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt based on the situation that he took over, the situation that he inherited when his general manager that hired him was let go shortly after he was brought on board, and then injuries, and then the team going into the lottery in back-to-back years. It's been tough, but I think this year we'll be able to sit back and really get a feel for what he and his coaching staff are about in terms of coaching, especially teaching and player development. And tonight was rough. Now, before we continue here on the show, I want to welcome in my partner, Chris Burkhardt, and I want to let everyone know that we're also streaming live right now on YouTube, and we will be throughout the entire season. So right now you can go to youtube.com and pull up our page, Rip City Radio 620, and you can be able to click on the live link, and you'll be checking us out in studio. So if you are chilling on the couch, you're hanging out at home, you don't have to listen on the radio. You can just tune in via YouTube. Whatever works for you. We're here to please, and we're going to provide you with as many opportunities as we can. Chris Burkhardt, my partner in crime, is here. My brother, what's up? It's good to see you, Burkhardt.
Oh, it's good to see you. It's good to be here.
Opening night, baby. We got 81 more of these bad boys to go after tonight. The home opener for your Portland Trailblazers will come on Friday night. It will be against the Orlando Magic. That tip-off is at 7 o'clock, and then they're going to take off on a little road trip with stops in Philly on Sunday. They'll be in Toronto before they eventually come back home. Now, what were some of your takeaways from tonight, this rough opener against the Clippers?
Well, I mean, how much is there to take away, right?
Not much.
It was a rough game. It really was. But what do you expect? I mean, you expected the team to get beat up by one of the better teams in the West, right?
Yeah.
You expect them to take their lumps with the 20 rookies that they're rolling out there. Would have liked to see more from DeAndre Ayton, of course. Would have liked to see Scoot be a little more comfortable, but it's game one of the new era, man. Like, you expect it.
Yes, and I think, don't you think that the Blazers, we forget this, but this is a brand new team with brand new faces. Only 4 players that were on the roster last year are on the roster to start this year. So with that, there's going to be a lot of growing pains. So whatever this team has, their best basketball, whatever that is this year, is going to be ahead of them. And the schedule to start out the year is going to be very difficult based on some of the teams that they're playing. And on most nights, talent-wise, this team will be overmatched a bit too. And so you just have to remember what this season is about. It's about player development. So really the key, like I mentioned before, watch game to game. See what the coaches are doing. See how the players are developing. and then we can take off from there. Your telephone number is 503-248-0620. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. Clippers over the Blazers tonight at Crypto.com Arena, 123 to 111. A couple of things that jumped out at me. One, I really like the way that Anthony Simons played on both ends of the floor. He wasn't spectacular tonight, but did a good job defensively, and there will be a lot of pressure on him. I think teams will play him differently. He's going to see more bodies than what he's accustomed to because he will be their primary scoring option. I expect Ant this year to jump that scoring up even more than what we saw. We saw an improvement by over 4 points from a couple of years ago to last year. He averaged, 21 points per game. And I expect that number to go up again this year, probably 25 to 26 points per night for Anthony. But he's going to face a lot more pressure, and he's going to be asked to do so many different things because right now he's the best player on the roster. So we'll keep an eye on Ant, but he's going to have a lot of work to do, a lot of pressure, and he's going to have to perform. They're going to need him for a variety of different reasons, mainly the scoring and his shooting, too. One area that's going to be tough for Portland this year is, I think, in the years past with Dame and CJ especially, the offensive rating was high. They had guys who could shoot. They had guys who could knock down threes. But I think what we're going to see this year as they continue to learn how to play defense and do the things that Chauncey wants them to do, one thing that I think will make this year particularly tough will be the drop-off on offense. I think this team more than likely, based on the roster and the makeup with the lack of shooting, they'll probably fall to the bottom 10, somewhere in that area in offensive rating. And they'll also be in the bottom 10, I would guess, in three-point makes. And that's going to be difficult because in the past, part of the way they were able to make up for some of the defensive deficiencies was their ability to score and their ability to shoot threes. And I think that's going to be a struggle this year as they continue to figure out, who they are and what they're trying to accomplish, and especially with the young guys learning how to play the NBA game. And then I think long-term this year, they can look at Scoot Henderson and how they want to approach it. Do they want to continue to have him start? That would be my guess. If they feel like the game is too fast for him and he's having difficulties with the adjustments, maybe you could move him to the bench. I'm not suggesting they do that, but I think these are things they could look at if he continues to struggle and you want to put him in a situation where he could succeed. Maybe they could look to get, Shaedon Sharpe some starting minutes. I think there's a variety of different combinations in terms of what we could see from the Trailblazers. But tonight, they just got behind the 8 ball early. The Clippers jumped out quick tonight. They jumped out quick. They were on fire early. They led by 9 after 1. They increased that lead to 20 at halftime. They led by as much as 30 in the second half, and they did so by shooting the lights out. They shot 56% in the first half. They were 9 of 18 from downtown. They were dominating the paint. Dominating the glass. They just controlled every aspect of the game. And so by the time the second half started and they just continued to run and do what they were doing, the Blazers had no answer. And Portland tonight didn't shoot the ball well. They made just 10 of 32 from downtown. Both teams careless with the basketball. 18 turnovers for the Blazers tonight that led to 24 points. In that starting lineup, Matisse Thybulle played 20 minutes, finished with 8 points on 3 of 7 shooting. Jeremy Grant tonight, 30 minutes of action, 13 points, 3 rebounds. He was 0 of 4 from downtown, 5 of 12 from the field. DeAndre Ayton in foul trouble most of the night, finished with 4 points and 12 rebounds. He got 23 minutes of action due to the foul trouble. Anthony Simons, 27 minutes, 6 of 14 from the floor, 18 points, 4 assists, and he connected on 2 of 6 from downtown. And Scoot Henderson, in his NBA debut, scoreless in the first half, 4 turnovers. He finished with 11 points and 4 assists on 5 of 11 shooting. He missed on all 3 of his shots from downtown. Off the bench, we saw flashes of what makes Robert Williams so tough. 23 minutes for Robert Williams, 10 points, 7 rebounds on 5 of 7 shooting. Shaedon Sharpe tonight, I thought he played well in spurts. He finished with 14 points and 6 rebounds, made just 1 of 6 from downtown, 6 of 14 from the floor. And Malcolm Brogdon led the team in scoring with 20 points on 8 of 16 shooting, including 3 of 5 from downtown. And I like his game. Former 6th Man of the Year award winner. Obviously comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I think a guy, as long as he's on the roster, someone that the Blazers are going to want to utilize. And that's what you have. The Clippers run away and hide. They get the win 123-111. They take the opener. The Trailblazers now will return home and get ready for a game against the Orlando Magic Friday night at Moda Center. Let's go out to the phones. Long time no chat, but my man Victor in Turkey is there. Victor, it's great to have you on the show, my friend. Welcome to the fifth quarter. What is on your mind?
Oh, my brother, I'm so, painful. I have so much in my chest that, I don't want to take all your time because I have so much in my mind and in my chest that I want to take it out on the radio. I remember Bill Maher with Politically Incorrect. Bill Maher, the show by Bill Maher, Politically Incorrect. I wish I was taking English literature when I went to PSU. Instead, I took the computer science and mathematics. And Chad, I tell you, when you take pure mathematics in college, in only 3 months, you can lose all your hair. You're going to go bald. In 2 months, you're going to lose all your hair. It's so difficult. It's so complex, pure mathematics. And I made a mistake because, you and Chris, believe me, I acknowledge you as a master of English. And a lot of analysts like you, it's so important to communicate. I was a very good student. In Turkey, I was number one. That's why I can talk in English, pretty good. But what I'm saying is, about this Blazer, I tell you, I'm not really hopeful of that because you see the real difference between Blazer and Clipper, it was like 100 points. But when how it goes when the Chauncey he dropped the white, he threw the white flag, what is called white flag. Then the other team they took out their main players out, and that's why the score pretty much come down. But what I'm saying is the difference was too much. And I tell you, frankly, if you want to know my idea, I like to watch the Blazers, but what I'm saying is, if they're going to lose, so many games, just think about it, Scoot Henderson, and they're going to make him better and better, but it's like a training camp. It's like a training camp, but I don't see any hope in DeAndre. Frankly, Chad, DeAndre was dominated by Yusuf Nurkic. In the preseason game, Yusuf Nurkic dominated him. And then in the 2 games that the Sun played, the last game, Yusuf Nurkic has 14 and 14 rebounds, 14 points. And the previous game, he had high points too. DeAndre didn't look right. I mean, he was very calm, very relaxed. I don't see too much hope in him, he doesn't smile. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, there are lots of things that the analysts like you and Chris, they have to overcome this season because, if this game was played in Turkey, man, people, they get really disappointed, but the second team of the Blazers, they played better than the first team. It's obvious. The second team they brought in, as you said, Brogdon and other guys, they came in and they played really good. So what I'm saying, that maybe that's the idea they want to do, But the first team, they are not really, they are not very flashing, So I just want to know if you can wait on them to get better and better. I don't know. They might even, you tell me, at the end of the year, maybe they want to go to the tank again, get another guy. But that's not tanking so many tanks. It doesn't work. So what is your solution to this? We got the DeAndre that, that was the first game. But what I'm saying, if it goes like this, 10 points or 15 points, he has to have a high points, like 20 points, something like that. Is it possible?
Yeah, let me work on that just a little bit. And, of course, Victor, you're always welcome to call and get whatever's on your chest. If you need to get it off, we're here for you. A couple of things to keep in mind, and I know it's hard for you to understand because, Victor, you come from, a very basic logic that, hey, you're out there to try and win basketball games. This team right now, you got to remember, only 4 guys, as I mentioned, were on the roster last year that are on the roster to start this year. So you've got a brand new team that, remember, is the youngest roster in the NBA. So you have new guys, youth, guys with inexperience, and a bunch of players on the roster who have never played basketball together ever before. And on top of that, you've got a coaching staff that's trying to get used to and get a feel for their new players. And a lot of the guys just came on the roster as of a few weeks ago after the trade was completed. So I remember Chauncey talking about this in the preseason with DeAndre Ayton. What they're trying to do right now with DeAndre is get, an understanding of all the different things he can do on the floor and really discover what his best is, his strengths. And then from there, they'll continue to tailor his role on this squad. So he will get better with time. DeAndre Ayton's really one of the least of my worries on this team. I like him. He's talented. And he's motivated because he's now in a place where he feels wanted after what I think he got, which was the shaft down in Phoenix with their organization. So DeAndre Ayton's going to be fine. Scoot Henderson is going to be fine. It's just going to take him a while to get used to the speed and the way in which the NBA game operates, especially when he's out there on the floor starting games, going up against, other big-time players in this league who have played for a long time. And then from there, just guys continuing to learn how to play with one another. It's a process. So you're going to see some rough basketball early in the season, and I think hopefully we'll see strides as things move along. The biggest thing I'm going to watch is the biggest question I have about this entire situation right now. Can Chauncey Billups get his team to play the way that he wants them to play? I don't know the answer to that. And then with that, what type of improvements are we seeing, especially with the youngsters, the younger guys on the roster? What type of improvements are we seeing as the season moves along? Are they adapting to the style of play he wants, both on offense and defense? Are we seeing improvements in these individuals in their game as time moves along? That's going to be the biggest thing I evaluate because they need to find out not just about some of the guys on the roster, but also if Chauncey Billups has what it takes to be able to coach and develop and teach and all the things you want with a young team. But I think the rough basketball will come especially early because you have a lot of guys who are learning their role on the team, young guys with inexperience, and a bunch of guys that haven't played together. They're going to need Ant to play exceptionally well right now. They're going to need him for his scoring. The other problem, too, is they're very thin at forward. They don't have a true starting small forward. That's why, we see Matisse Thybulle in the starting lineup. Jeremy Grant is their best forward. But after that, when you go to the bench, they're very thin. They lack talent and experience at those spots. It's going to be tough. So, it's a process. It's not about wins and losses this year. It's about talent acquisition that can come via trades. It's about acquiring assets for drafts in the future. And this team's not going to tank this year. They'll just naturally get to where they need to be based on the roster they've put together.
It's like tonight. Tonight wasn't a tank job. Tonight was they have Kawhi and Paul George and we don't job.
That's right. But, isn't this what you expect? New team, guys who haven't played together, especially going up against a quality opponent like the Clippers. This kind of stuff's going to go down early in the season, right? We're going to see a lot of this throughout the year.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And you got Orlando to open up the home slate, and they just took care of business against Houston. Now, Houston's not great, but, they beat them by 30. So it's going to be a tough road. And, Scoot, hopefully, is not going to look like this in game 82, right? That's what we were looking for, right? That maturation, that growth from game 1 to game 10 to game 20 to game 82. Those are the little things. The playoffs, all that stuff, that's years down the road. Right now, it's the little things.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on fifth quarter. Opening night. What's up, my friends? You can join us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com and go to our homepage, Rip City Radio, and you can pull up the live link and join us in studio right now. We got a new setup with cameras. This lighting's better for me. I still look very pasty, Burkhardt, but I see less gray hairs right now. That's a good thing. Booyah! All right, 503-248-0620. It's the fifth quarter on your home of the Blazers, 620, Rip City Radio.
Henderson in the other direction. Fakes right, goes left. He runs it up and scores his first career NBA points from 13 feet. The floater from Scoot Henderson.
All right, fifth quarter, Chad Doing and Chris Burkhardt with you. Telephone number is 503-248-0620 as the Trailblazers take a loss tonight in their opener, 123-111 to the L.A. Clippers. I'd love your take on what you saw, whether it be from Scoot or anybody else on the roster. What did you think about the game tonight? I thought it was really a tough watch. It was just rough. As I mentioned before, one of the biggest things I'm going to be watching is, Chauncey Billups. I want to know what type of coach he is. I want to know if he's, got the ability to coach this team up on both sides of the floor and develop the youngsters, especially Scoot Henderson, their top draft choice. And from what I've heard from multiple people around the league, the word on Chauncey has been the word that I hear most of the time used to describe what he's done so far in Portland is just disorganized. So that could be the fact that he was a victim of circumstance. It may be reality. So we're going to find out over the course of time this year what type of coach he can be. That's going to be the key, especially with the development of, some of the younger guys on the roster. And I think with the rotation, the other issue is going to be shooting. Where are the points going to come from? Where are the three-point buckets going to come from? Where are they going to find this? Where are they going to find the scoring? So those are some things to keep an eye on. I also know that the Blazers, in terms of schedule, they've got one of the more difficult schedules in the entire NBA, which is going to be tough for a young team. Just look at what they have coming up. This opener tonight in L.A., they lose the game 123-111. Back home Friday for their home opener against the Magic, a very good young team with a deep roster and a lot of talent. That's going to be a tough matchup. Then they take off for games against Philly on Sunday. Monday, they're in Toronto against the Raptors. Wednesday in Detroit against the Pistons before they come back home to take on the Grizzlies in back-to-back games on the 3rd and 5th of November. And then they scoot off to Sacramento, L.A. against the Lakers, and Utah against the Jazz before they come back home for the Cavs, Lakers, Thunder, and then they travel to Phoenix to take on the Suns. The first part of the schedule is going to be tough. So, what am I trying to say? Don't expect a lot of wins. It's just weird. The weird part about this year, it's like a brand new season with a brand new roster, and they got Scoot Henderson. It's weird because there are no expectations. There's no pressure. My blood pressure throughout the course of this year is going to be a lot better because you know what to expect going in. The losses are going to pile up, but that's okay. I think the way you have to look at it is it's all about developing the youngsters. Can Chauncey get these guys to play the way he wants? And then, with time, with a lot of the guys they have on the roster, they can turn that around into different types of assets to be able to utilize. And they're going to have more good draft picks coming up. The great part is now, without Dame on the roster, the salary cap is more in order. And they've got not just draft picks now, but they have other pieces on the roster that can be turned into valuable assets. I don't know when Jeremy Grant could become available in the near future. That's definitely a possibility. We'll see what happens with Ant and Shaden Sharp as that continues, how Sharp develops. I think Matisse Thybulle could be a valuable piece to a contender. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon. There are going to be teams looking for him. So there are plenty of options for the Blazers in terms of, going out and acquiring assets. What happens early in the NBA season, teams, they have what they have. And they're going to stand pat for the time being because they want to let things breathe a little bit, find out what type of rosters they have. And then what will happen is we enter into the new year and then start to press forward towards the trade deadline. You'll have all of these contenders, around the association looking to improve. And I think that's where the offers could start to heat up. And that's where teams will call Portland. Hey, what about this player? What are you looking for this guy? And that's where Joe Cronin can sit back. And this is the best part about the whole situation right now for Cronin. There's no rush. they don't have to rush and do anything. They don't have to rush to move anyone on the roster. They can take their time and then sit back and evaluate what offers are being made. And when you get an offer that you really like, that you think can improve your franchise, then you take it. But there's no pressure. There's no rush. It's a great place to be in. They have more flexibility right now in terms of assets than they've had in a long period of time, over a decade. And now they got a chance to sit back and see what they have, see what the coaching staff can do, see what Scoot's all about. What about Shaden Sharp? And then they can continue to look at those opportunities to go out there and improve the roster. That to me is exciting. You know, you all of a sudden put yourself in a situation where you're, you know, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, where you've got some young talent, you've got assets, you've got flexibility, and you have the opportunity to go out there and make moves that make sense when they become available to improve your roster. And then as guys develop, then, you know, 2 or 3 years down the road, you're in a position where you can go out there and make a run. Now, for those of you wondering, no Bucks tonight. We have to wait until tomorrow. There's a TNT doubleheader, and it's going to be pretty awesome because we get to sit back and watch the Sixers take on the Bucks. Now, for me, I'm not a hater most of the time, so I want to see Dame win a championship. So I'm going to enjoy watching the Bucks. I'm going to enjoy watching Dame with the size and the length and the roster that he's now with. And then we can sit back throughout the regular season, watch Scoot, watch the young Blazers, see how they develop, see how things go, see what moves may be made before the deadline. And then come postseason time, we have a playoff team to cheer for. And that's the Bucks. And that's Dame. And I'm happy for Dame. Can you imagine just for a moment, and put yourself in Dame's shoes for just a second, after the years and years that he played with guys like Harkless and Aminu, or no small forward whatsoever, to go out there and now he arrives in Milwaukee and he looks over, he's got Giannis on his left, Middleton on his right, and he's got Lopez. A roster that's good defensively, one that's got length, one that provides him with protection. You get a chance to play with arguably the greatest player on the planet in Giannis and have a chance to go win a championship. That, to me, is awesome. So I'm definitely going to pull for the Bucks come playoff time. They will be my playoff team. I will pull for them, and I want the best for Dame. And I think we can all sit back and enjoy that. So it's going to be cool to see how that kind of unfolds and how things develop. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter or X, you can do so. You'll find me there at Chad in Rip City. And, of course, we're on YouTube, and we'll be throughout the season live on YouTube, streaming right now. So if you want to join that, you can jump on YouTube.com and just go to our homepage, ripcityradio.com. The Blazers fall tonight by a final score of 123-111. Scoot Henderson scoreless in the first half. He finished with 11 points and 4 assists on 5 of 11 shooting. Anthony Simons, 18 points on 6 of 14 shooting. Malcolm Brogdon led the way with 20 points. For the Clippers tonight, they got 27 from Paul George, a game high. He had 6 assists. Kawhi Leonard had 23 points and 6 assists. And they also got 20 points and 12 boards from Zubac, their center. Russell Westbrook tonight, 11 points and 13 assists in 28 minutes. He was 5 of 8 from the floor. And they got 17 points off the bench from Bones Highland, 8 points from Norman Powell, and Mason Plumlee, the former Blazer, 6 points and 8 boards off the bench. You know, the Clippers are one of those teams in the Western Conference where they've got the star power, they've got versatility, they've got depth. It's really just a matter of if those two guys, George and Kawhi, can stay healthy, and how much will they play? And then once the postseason arrives, are they healthy, and what type of positioning do they have? You know, the Western Conference is deep. I think the majority of people probably agree that Denver, the Suns, and the Lakers, those are kind of the 3 teams that everyone looks at as the 3 best. But after that, you have teams like the Clippers and the Warriors. I think it's pretty wide open. Denver's probably the best right now. They looked really good last night in the win over the Lakers. And they've got the MVP and, well, the people's MVP in Jokic. But after that, I think it's going to be a wild battle. The Eastern Conference appears to be more defined. I think we can tell you right now the 2 teams that will be in the Eastern Conference Finals, barring some type of injury, is going to be the Bucks and the Celtics. So who do you like there, Boston and Milwaukee? But in the Western Conference, it's, much deeper. There are many teams, I think, many more than just two who will compete for conference supremacy. And we'll see how things shake out. So, Burkhardt, how do you see it? Is it just Boston and Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference? Is it just those two teams? Can anyone else factor in?
I think so. In the fact that it's just Boston and Milwaukee. I mean, who else factors in? You can't trust Philly. They don't even know what they're doing with the second star of their team right now. So they got to figure that out. No one in South Beach wants to hear it, but I mean, Miami's run last year was incredible. It was fun, right? We were all rooting for them, but let's not act like they weren't a play-in team that almost got bounced by the Chicago Bulls. So they took a little work to get there too. I don't look at Miami right now. I look at them just like I looked at them last year. Like, yeah, that's not a team that's going to go make a ton of noise. So, yeah, it's really Milwaukee and Boston for sure.
And what about the Western Conference? More teams, right? Denver, Phoenix, the Lakers, the Warriors, maybe the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, Clippers, the big thing's going to be health. I think OKC is a major dark horse. I think they're going to make some noise. I love SGA. The Kings are going to be better. But, I mean, contender-wise, it's probably Phoenix, Denver, and L.A. I think L.A. will click eventually. But so many people are sleeping on the Nuggets, which kind of blows my mind. Like defending champs, best player in the world, a guy who, would prefer to ride horses than play basketball, and then shows up to an NBA arena and just drops a casual triple-double. So I'm kind of rooting for a Denver-Milwaukee finals.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Because not only would you get Giannis and Jokic, which would be incredible, but there's storylines abound with how many times Dame went to battle against the Nuggets in the playoffs. To do it in the NBA Finals would be pretty incredible.
He and Jamal Murray going head-to-head?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's a good matchup. I'll take that. Give me Denver and Milwaukee. That'd be a fun series, especially to get the two best players on the planet in the same game in Giannis and Jokic. I could live with that. I'll take that. What do you guys think about that? 503-248-0620. We'll keep things rolling here on fifth quarter. We'll come back. We're going to hear from Chauncey Billups, and I'll give you a scoreboard report, and we'll take a look around the association with a lot of games tonight and let you know how things shaked out. All right, the Blazers take the loss tonight in L.A. against the Clippers, 123-111. They'll be back home for their home opener Friday night against the Magic, 7 o'clock tip at Moda Center. And, of course, it'll be live right here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. let's take you around the NBA tonight. In Charlotte, the Hornets topped the Hawks 116-110. PJ Washington finished with 25 points. Elsewhere in Indiana, the Pacers over the Wizards 143-120. Halliburton finished with 20 points and 11 assists. In New York at Madison Square Garden, the Celtics topped the Knicks 108-104. Jason Tatum with 34 points and 11 rebounds. In Orlando, the Magic, who the Blazers will see on Friday night at Moda Center, topped the Rockets 116-86. Anthony finished with 20 points and 8 rebounds. In Brooklyn, the Cavs edged the Nets 114-113. Donovan Mitchell with 27 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals. In Miami, the Heat over the Pistons 103-102. Bam Adebayo finished with 22 points and 8 rebounds. In Toronto, the Raptors 97, the Timberwolves 94. OG Anunoby finished with 20 points, 6 boards, and 3 blocks. In Chicago, the Thunder over the Bulls by a final score of 124-104. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finished with 31 points and 10 assists. In Memphis, the Pelicans over the Grizzlies 111-104. CJ McCollum 24 points and 6 assists. Desmond Bain dropped 31 in the loss. In Utah, the Kings over the Jazz 130-114. Harrison Barnes 33 points. In San Antonio, Mavericks topped the Spurs 126-119. Victor Wembanyama made his debut. And in LA, the Clippers over the Trailblazers 123-111. Don't forget, Dame will be in action with Giannis for the first time tomorrow. Sixers in Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. For the Spurs tonight, in that loss to the Mavericks, Victor Wembanyama in his NBA debut, 23 minutes, 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. He was 6 of 9 from the floor, including 3 of 5 from downtown. And one other player to keep an eye on for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who will be in contention for Rookie of the Year, along with Victor Wembanyama and, of course, Scoot Henderson. And Shai Gilgeous is so good. Chet Holmgren tonight, 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in 25 minutes. He was 4 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 3 from downtown. All right, and there you have it, the night in the association. All right, Chauncey Billups had a chance to talk with the media following the Blazers' loss tonight in L.A. Let's take a listen.
Of the game, and just never really settled in, you know. But I just didn't feel like we challenged them enough. It's a good team, you know. That team is going to be competing for a championship this year. But we didn't challenge them enough, in my opinion. But we never really got settled in. I thought their pressure really hurt us, turned us over. The rebounding really kind of hurt us. So it was, you know, it was an uphill climb the whole game.
Were you surprised by how poorly you guys started, given the opponent, given their length, their experience, and that you have so many new players and so many young players? I mean, did it shock you?
I wasn't surprised at all. I thought that it would, you know, this is obviously was going to be a tough game for us. You know, the experience that they have, the size and the experience. Knew it was going to come into play, but the only thing that I'm disappointed in just a little is just I just thought we let them catch the ball too easy. You know, they didn't let us catch it easy. We know their plays. They knew our plays. They didn't let us just catch it where they wanted to catch it. We kind of allowed them to do so. And the game is very easy with no pressure. I mean, basketball is very easy when you're not under duress, and that's kind of what you're seeing today.
Coach, obviously so much of this season is about the development and growth of skill.
Yeah.
And I think some people will have the impulse to react to tonight's game. What do you say to people about that, about not jumping to conclusions?
Yeah, I would just say there's going to be some nights that he looks 19, you know, and tonight was one of those nights. And it's, you know, I'm not surprised by it. You know, sometimes we sat here and talked, and I said I'll be interested to see at what point he calms down, you know. it never really happened, until the end of the game, and the game was out of reach. But that's just a part of it, that's a part of where we're at, and when you're developing a young player in particular at that position, it's not easy, it's not easy.
And so much of this is also how you are going to coach him and bring him along through this.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what your next move is going to be with him? Do you let him breathe? Do you console him?
No. We'll sit and watch it and talk about it, because I first and foremost, I want to say what he's seen and what he thought, Sometimes what he's seen and why he might feel like he struggled is probably different than the way that I see it, but I always want to allow them to tell me first, so they're not just saying what I say, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it'll be like this sometimes this year, where sometimes I got to kind of step back and just let it happen, because that's how you learn, experience is kind of the best teacher. I still remember some of my rookie games as a rookie when I had 9 turnovers and 8 turnovers and who it was against and where it was at. Like, you just remember those things. So some of it is going to be me stepping back, letting it happen, and some of it I got to step in and say, okay, hold on. So be touch and go.
Did you feel like he was just tight tonight, or what did you actually see that was holding him back from showing everything that you think he's capable of?
Yeah, well,
nerves, tightness?
I thought he was I thought he was nervous, for one. I think the main thing that happens in this position is you want to play good so bad, and that can kind of overtake you, So it was a lot probably coming at him. Look at who we were playing against. That's a good team. They're out there to prove, like, no, not against us. We know he's probably going to be not tonight. That's another thing that you don't even think about, and so you could tell, with how Russ played out there, backing us down, kind of taking advantage of our size against him, like that's how this game is. But those are great moments to learn from.
How did you feel in the moment that he responded to kind of the game going the way that it went for him? We couldn't really see the bench from our angle, but did you see him getting frustrated or getting discouraged during timeouts and stuff? How do you feel like he kind of hung with it?
That's the thing that made me most happy, to be honest with you. As he struggled today, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. He was still locked in everything I said. He's looking me in my eyes. Anytime a teammate tried to help him, he's looking at him in his eyes, and he's going to be one of those type of guys that whether he's playing great or he's not playing that great, you're never going to know in his demeanor, So he didn't hang his hat. He had open shots. He shot them. He missed it. So what? He turned it over. He got back. He tried to get back into the play. To me, that's a big deal. That's a big deal because it's easy to lose confidence in the moment, when you're not playing well, when you're used to playing great. It's natural.
First chance to see Rob in live action. What'd you think? How do you feel like he performed, particularly with that second unit?
Yeah, I thought Rob did a pretty good job. Obviously, D.A. getting in foul trouble early kind of hurt the rotation, hurt the minutes, the plan, at least. So it kind of shuffled some things around. But I thought Rob came in and did a pretty good job. But in all honesty, I don't think anybody, with the exception of maybe Ant and Malcolm, I don't think anybody really settled in all night. It was a kind of a clunky game. But some of that is nerves, and a lot of that is who you're playing against. That's going to be probably a top 2 or 3 defensive team in the league this year, in my opinion. So a lot of that is them. You got to give them that credit.
Can you give me your assessment on DeAndre tonight? He got in early foul trouble, but I think he only had 4 points, a handful of shots.
He struggled too. Yeah. DeAndre struggled, and I don't think he played with a lot of force. Foul trouble will do that to you. A lot of times it'll kind of get you off of what you want to do from an aggressive standpoint. He rebounded the ball pretty well, but every time he got the ball, there were 2 or 3 people around. So if he tried to get to us, he was turning it over. They was deflecting it. So, again, I thought he was very anxious, to prove what he could do. So I thought nerves along with, the foul trouble kind of threw DA off.
All right, there you go. There's Coach Billups. We spent a lot of time talking about all the different guys that struggled tonight. It is nice to know that Scoot, even through the struggles tonight, still, attentive, alert, focused, and that's what I would expect from him. Scoot does not lack in self-confidence. He's a very confident young man, and he's going to continue to work hard, and he knows he's got the ability to go out there and make things happen. It's just a process to adjust, especially at his age. Dame much older when he made his NBA debut. Let's go out to Multnomah Village. Jeff is out there. Jeff, appreciate the phone call. You're up on fifth quarter. What's on your mind?
What's up, Chad? First time, long time.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Welcome to the fifth quarter.
Yeah, of course, man. My question for you is specifically, what have you seen from Chauncey that makes him seem like a good coach? Because you said you've been hopeful, but I have not seen much from him at all. So if you could be specific, I'd love to hear it, because I'm not seeing.
Well, no, let me answer my question. Don't hang up. Let's talk about this for a moment, Jeff. I haven't seen anything thus far to lead me to believe that he's a good coach. I just don't know if he is or not. I think what has happened over the first 2 years, he was hired by Neil Olshey. So when he came in, the idea is that, he would be a guy that the veteran players on the team would respect, and hopefully could encourage them to play a different brand of basketball. The problem is Dame was injured that first year. Then his general manager was let go, and the team went into a tank season. And then in year number 2, it was also a tank season, and now we're at a situation where he's got a brand-new roster that's the youngest roster in the league, and now they're in a full rebuild. So I don't think the first 2 years, based on the circumstances, were a fair way to evaluate a coach. So I'm going to be watching closely this year to see the type of development we see with the team, but in particular the young players on the squad, and then we'll have a better idea to evaluate and understand what type of coach he is. But right now I have no idea if he's a good coach or not. I just don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, my issue with last year is I didn't think our roster was that bad for the first, 40 games of the season. And he still just did so many frustrating things. And even before Dave started resting for tanking, I saw nothing from him.
Yeah, I think we can disagree on the roster. I didn't think the roster was great last year. But, we'll find out a lot more. But to answer your question, I've seen nothing to indicate he's a great coach. In fact, I haven't seen anything at all, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt based on how the first 2 years unfolded with tank seasons. But this year, I think we can start to turn up the heat on him in terms of, they're going to lose a lot of games this year, but the question to me is, can he get them to play the way he wants them to play? And what type of development do we see with the young players, namely Scoot, and how he comes along in his career? What type of role do they carve out for DeAndre Ayton? Things like that I think are going to be important to watch, and then we'll be able to have a better evaluation after this year. But I have my doubts. Like I mentioned before, the big question mark on him, or the big thing that's been said about him from people around the league, is that he appears to be disorganized. And if you watch them play, you can see some disorganization in terms of how they operate. So we'll see how things unfold. But I'm with you.
Yeah, before I go, can you talk a bit more about just what disorganization meant from the people you've talked to? Because obviously that's kind of like a, general term.
Yes, I can. Disorganized, and I appreciate the phone call. Disorganized in terms of rotations, decision-making in terms of, drawing up, plays coming in and out of timeouts, disorganization in terms of offense. And, he talks about wanting guys to move, having player movement and ball movement, but no one's responding to that. So a lot of times you have, guys on the floor that don't really have a clear understanding of what they are supposed to be doing and where they need to be. Defensively, the numbers speak for themselves. Guys out of position, they're not connected on a string. So, I mean, the disorganization comes in a variety of different ways. I think part of it, too, is just a new coach, learning the NBA game, how to be a head coach, all the little details that come with being a coach. That's why I'm glad he's got an experienced assistant on his staff that can kind of help him with some of those things. But, obviously being a head coach, it's a huge undertaking. And, especially when you make the jump from his position to being a head coach, unlike the majority of guys who spend a lot of time riding the bench as an assistant, years and years of assistant work. So by the time they get that position, they've got a pretty good handle on how things should go. But we'll see how things continue to develop. What's your take on Chauncey Billups so far, Burkhardt? You've been able to evaluate him at all based on the way the first 2 years went? Where do you come out on Chauncey right now?
The answer is no. You haven't been able to evaluate him. So it almost sounds cliche, but this is kind of make or break, right? Like, if you now have a chance to mold this team the way you want, and how do you do it? And one thing I like about him is that he does tend to say the right things, right? You heard it in the press conference tonight. He says the right things, but I think about it this way, right? You're a dad too. Like, I can look at my 1-year-old, right? And I can tell her, like, okay, it's time to start walking. It's time to start walking. Tegan, you're supposed to put one foot in front of the other. That's how you walk. Bend the knee. She doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, right? You might have to show her. You might have to pick her up a little bit. You know how you grab your little kid under the armpits and you move them and their legs start to move, and that's how they learn that their legs work?
Yeah.
You might have to do that as a coach, right? Like, hey, Scoot, I'm going to grab you by the shoulders and move you from left to right. This is where you need to be defensively. Get forceful with it a little bit, because, like, the talk can only go so far, right? So at some point, you got to stop being Mr. Nice Guy. At least that's how he portrays himself outwardly to the media.
I mean, it's so important right now with the young roster and players like Scoot that you want to develop in the right way. Coaching is everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a balancing act. It's tough for sure. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's real big here. Chad, is that if Chauncey goes through half this season or this whole season and you are starting to look at it and you're not seeing much, you need to cut bait. The last thing you need is the first 2 years or 3 years of Scoot's development under the coach that you don't think's the guy who's going to be here for the long term, right? Like, you look at, like, Scotty Brooks, who's on the staff right now, but he was there for Russ, was the guy who helped develop him. Then once he left that next year, I mean, he pops off and gets an MVP, but he was there for him through all that. I think about how many times we talk about in the NFL when we talk quarterbacks, the quarterbacks who Alex Smith was one, right? Like, a different coordinator every single year, right? Yep. And then when he finally found that stability, he started to play really, really well. So the worst thing they could do for Scoot and Shaden and the young guys is not give them that stability.
All right, we'll come back on fifth quarter, and when we do, we'll jump into a new feature that we're going to have throughout the year. It's called What's the Scoot, where we focus in on the Blazers' top rookie, Scoot Henderson. Blazers take the loss tonight in L.A. against the Clippers, 123-111. Chris Burkhardt and Chad Doing with you. Next game coming up on Friday. I'll have game day starting at 4:30. Tip-off against the Magic will be at 7 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it's time for What's the Scoot. We'll have this throughout the year on game day and fifth quarter to focus in on the Blazers' top rookie, Scoot Henderson. I did see, let me see if I can find this real quick. Tom Habastro, who is the new analytics expert for the Portland Trailblazers, had a good tweet out. A 19-year-old point guard, top 3 pick, NBA career debut. LaMelo Ball, 0 points on 0 of 5 shooting. Kyrie Irving, 6 points on 2 of 12 shooting. D'Angelo Russell had 4 points on 2 of 7 shooting. And tonight, Scoot Henderson, 11 points on 5 of 11 shooting. So just to put it in perspective for a man of his age and experience level, coming in, it's going to take some time for Scoot Henderson. I think the interesting question for him will be this. One, we saw it. I think the adjustment for him going to the NBA from the G League in the starting lineup, he's going up against other guys in the league who are experienced guys who know what they're doing. He's got kind of a bullseye on his back because you've got, players that want to show him up because he came in with a lot of hype. He's a very confident young man. And so adjusting to the speed, the physicality, and the type of athlete he's going to face night in and night out is going to be a challenge for him, a big-time challenge. So that's going to take an adjustment. The good thing for Scoot physically, he's got a man's body, and, it's just going to take some time. Plus, he's still learning his teammates. These guys were in camp for a few weeks, but, they're still learning each other, learning the system, learning how they want to play. And while Scoot is still learning his teammates, he's adjusting to the NBA game. So it's going to take some time. I think offensively, obviously great on the attack, especially when he's attacking the rim and the teeth of the defense. He's great at, driving in and being able to kick out for open shooters. We'll see how things continue to develop. He's got to work on a step-back 3. He's got to, really polish up his, pull-up jumper. He'll get better on that with time. That's just going to take some work on his part. The key for him is just to remain patient, not to press, and, just continue to work on his game day by day. And he'll adjust and be just fine. Scoot, this is a process for him. It's a learning experience. He's going to have some good nights. He'll have some rough nights, but he'll be fine. The good thing is what Coach Billups was talking about after the game tonight is that, his spirits remained upbeat and positive. Even through the struggles, he was still, attentive and focused on what needed to be done. One option would be if they wanted to put him in a situation where he'd have a little bit more chance to stretch his wings and have success. You could at times, if you wanted to move him out of the starting lineup, you could start Ant and Shaden, bring Scoot off the bench, and he could be in the second unit in a situation where maybe he could have a little more freedom to move and have an easier way with things. For me, I'm kind of at the thought process with him where you just play him. You live with the struggles, the bumps, the bruises, the difficulties along the way, and knowing that in the end, that's going to pay off for him. And that's a good thing. So game 1 of 82 in his very first NBA season, he'll adjust and continue to get better. And like I said before, the coaching staff, I hope they look at this as a welcome challenge where finally they have a chance to teach, right? You got youngsters. You can, as Chris Burkhardt said, you can mold them and shape them. Also, we did take care of one issue. Someone on the YouTube chat pointed out that we needed to take down the NERC fever sign. Well, I did, and then Burkhardt came in and corrected it. We don't have NERC fever anymore. As you can see over my shoulder, we have Burke fever.
Burke fever.
I'm
leaving my
feeling it.
mark.
I like Burke fever.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, it's interesting that I think it was Rick here in the YouTube comments when you're talking about some of the good things. Scoot did mention that, it was garbage time. At least I think that's what he was referring to. And while I get that sentiment, there's no such thing as garbage time for Scoot. Every single time is developmental time, right? It doesn't matter who's on the court. The Clippers could be running their third stringers out there. That is important time for Scoot to get on there. And if he starts showing flashes and does good things, that is a good thing.
RC Showtime says, I'm going to need some heavy medicine this season. Tell me you've got that doctor on speed dial, the one with all the jazz music and friends in quotations. Don't worry. I'm sure he'll check in, Dr. Scott. Let's go out and talk with Paul. Paul, appreciate the phone call. You're up on fifth quarter. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Chad?
It's all good, man. What's on your mind? What'd you think about the opener tonight against the Clippers?
I unfortunately couldn't watch it because of like somebody like dropping root, but I listened to like a little bit of it on the radio, and I don't know, man. Tough way to start the season.
Yeah, no doubt. Tough, especially against a team with experience and cohesion, and you've got a young roster in the Blazers. It's gonna take some time.
Hey, I wanted to get your take on something, Chad.
Yeah, what's that?
If I know you kind of touched on it already, but if Chauncey doesn't like improve this season, how soon do you think until he's out?
Well, that's a good question. Let me think about that for a second, Paul. I don't think the Blazers are in a hurry to get rid of Chauncey Billups. So, in fact, I would say, based on what we've seen so far, it would take something really bad this year for him to be fired after the season. I just don't think they're going to be quick to move him. We'll have to wait and see how it develops, but I would be surprised if they fired him after the season. I would.
I think he'd have to be really, really bad to get fired. They seem to like him a lot, and I think kind of a perfect spot for a rookie head coach to come into, right? And I know he's not a rookie right now, but when he came into this situation where things unraveled quickly and then they went into tank mode, and then the next year they unraveled quickly due to injuries again, and they went into tank mode. So it's like it was job security regardless of the losses, and now he enters year 3, right, where it's like, well, go do it because you got a young team. So if he goes out there and rolls another, 20 or 30 win season, there's got to be a lot of people who are like, well, he was playing with a bunch of 19-year-olds. So, I mean, if you were a rookie head coach a couple years ago, he's in a decent spot.
I do. I really believe that the 2 tank seasons and the rebuild has bought him extra time, meaning I don't think he'll be fired after this year. I think it would be the following season next year where the heat would be cranked up. And at that point next year, if we don't see dramatic improvement in terms of how he wants them to play, the development of the young players like Scoot, then I think they would look to make a change. But I don't expect it to happen right away. He signed, what, a 5-year deal?
I believe that's what it was, somewhere in there.
So he's in year 3 of a 5-year deal. Yeah, I think you got to keep in mind, he was brought in and the front office wanted to tank the last 2 years with purpose. So obviously you've got to have some buy-in from your coach because it's like, hey, wait a second. You want me to tank and play all these guys where we're going to lose more games. That's going to go on my record. There's got to be some type of verbal, off-the-record agreement that if we do this, you're going to protect me. So I think he's going to be okay. Now, if it went really sideways and you had some type of coup with the players, then that could change everything, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it's imperative that he gets a very good relationship with Scoot right off the bat. I mean, I'm not saying he would have been fired, but you could also say that Dame made sure that Terry Stotts had job security for as long as possible.
He did. Paul Allen, after that sweep at the hands of the Pelicans at the end of the 2017-2018 season, he wanted to make change, but Neil and Dame presented themselves as human shields to make sure no changes were made.
Never forget that series. Myself, friend of the show, Jamie Hudson, our pal Peter Sokach, going down Bourbon Street, going into different voodoo shops and buying like a voodoo kit to try to cleanse the Blazers of all that was wrong.
Yeah,
we did. We made a video about it. It was pretty funny.
Now, if the Blazers tomorrow decided they wanted to move on from Billups and bring in a different coach because they thought that was what was best, I'd have no problem with that either. But I just don't think they're going to do that because I haven't heard any issues that players have with Coach Billups. I think they like him. But I think the Blazers, based on what I've heard, the front office really thinks that Billups has been a victim of circumstance based on the way that the last 2 years have played out. So I think they're going to remain patient in this process. Remember, they're in the very beginning stages of a full rebuild.
I think perhaps, off the record as well that they may have a coach in waiting. I mean, for Scott Brooks to sit around here and just go through all this as an assistant coach when I think he could get a job anywhere he wanted to be on just about anybody's staff. There might be a little bit of, hey, you know what? We want you around. You're going to not only help develop our players, you're going to help develop our coach. But if it doesn't work, that interim label, we're going to give it to you, and it might come off pretty quickly.
Well, it is nice. If you did decide to make a move at some point, Brooks would be the easy choice to slide in.
I got into this debate with the Blazer fan the other day who thinks Scott Brooks is a terrible coach. I think Scott Brooks is a very good basketball coach. I like him
he's a
a
better
lot.
coach than Billups right now.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
He took a team to the NBA Finals. It's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
I think that's going to do it for us. Nice work, Burkhardt. We're going to be with you throughout the entire season on 620 Rip City Radio and also streaming live on YouTube. So we encourage you to join us. Thank you for your time. Obviously, Chris and I love being with you and this wild roller coaster ride known as Rip City. So our next game will come up on Friday. I'll have game day starting at 4:30. Tip-off against the Magic at Moda Center will be at 7, and then fifth quarter will be live here on 620 and on YouTube following the game. So you guys have a great night. Enjoy your Thursday, and we will talk to you on Friday here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Burke Fever, baby.
Yes! Let's get out of here!